Imagine a small group of people. They crossed a vast ocean. They sought a new life in a new world, a land full of promise and unknown dangers. This was North America over 400 years ago. These brave souls, men, women and children, established a settlement. They called it Roanoke. They built homes. They planted crops. They were pioneers, standing at the very edge of a vast, unexplored continent. Their dreams were as big as the sky above them, filled with stars they had never seen from their old homes in England. They were a tiny flicker of European life in an immense wilderness. Then something happened, something strange, something that echoes through history even today. The entire colony vanished. One moment they were there, a fledgling community carving out an existence. The next they were gone. No definitive trace, no clear explanation, just an empty settlement, reclaimed by the quiet, watchful forest. It was as if the earth itself had swallowed them whole, leaving behind only questions. This wasn't just a disappearance, it was an erasure. A mystery that began with a few hopeful footprints on a sandy shore and ended in a chilling, silent void. The year was 1590. When ships returned to Roanoke Island, expecting to find a thriving town, they found nothing, well, almost nothing. No signs of a struggle, no bodies. The journey to Roanoke was not a simple trip across a pond. It was an arduous voyage across the mighty Atlantic Ocean. In the late 16th century, ships were small wooden vessels. They were at the mercy of wind and wave. For the settlers, this journey was a leap of faith. They left behind everything they knew, their homes, their families, their familiar landscapes. They were sailing towards a dream, a vision of a better life, of opportunity, of freedom. But this dream was wrapped in layers of uncertainty, an immense physical challenge. Imagine weeks, even months, tossed about on a vast, seemingly endless expanse of water. These were ordinary people, farmers, artisans, families with young children. They were not necessarily hardened explorers. They were seeking a new beginning. The ships were cramped. Food was often scarce and spoiled. Fresh water was a precious commodity. Disease could spread like wildfire in such close quarters. Storms were a constant threat, capable of tearing ships apart or blowing them far off course. The settlers faced these perils with a mixture of courage and trepidation. They were pioneers in the truest sense, venturing into a world that was, for them, as alien as a distant planet. Their survival depended on their resilience and the skill of their navigators. Upon reaching the shores of what is now North Carolina, the settlers faced immediate difficulties. The location chosen for the colony, Roanoke Island, was perhaps not ideal. While it offered some protection, the soil was sandy and not as fertile as they might have hoped. Their initial attempts at agriculture were fraught with problems. English farming techniques did not always translate well to the new environment and different climate. The timing of their arrival also mattered. If they arrived too late in the growing season, their first harvest would be meager, threatening their food security for the coming winter. This was a critical early test. The colonists were also dependent on supplies from England. They had brought provisions, tools and weapons, but these were finite. Resupply missions were essential for their long-term survival, yet these missions were slow, expensive and unreliable, subject to the same dangers of ocean travel and the political whims of a distant crown. The vast distance separating them from their homeland made them feel incredibly isolated. Imagine being on a distant outpost, knowing that help, if it came at all, would take months to arrive. John White was the governor of this particular group of colonists, the 1587 expedition. He was not just an administrator, he was an artist, a cartographer, and a man deeply invested in the colony's success. His own daughter, Eleanor Dare, and his granddaughter, Virginia Dare, the first English child born in the Americas, were among the settlers. This personal connection made his role even more poignant. He had a profound stake in ensuring the colony thrived. He documented the New World's flora, fauna, and native peoples through his detailed watercolor paintings, giving us a precious visual record of this early encounter. However, as the summer of 1587 wore on, the colony's situation became increasingly dire. Supplies were running dangerously low. The initial stores brought from England were dwindling rapidly, and their first attempts at self-sufficiency were not yielding enough to sustain them through the approaching winter. Tensions with some local Native American tribes had escalated, making foraging and hunting outside their immediate settlement perilous. Section 5 echoes on an empty shore, the haunting return. It took 3 long, agonizing years for John White to finally make his way back to Roanoke Island. 3 years filled with worry, frustration, and the constant fear for the safety of his daughter, his granddaughter, and all the colonists he had left behind. When he finally approached the shores of Roanoke in August 1590, his heart must have been pounding with a mixture of hope and dread. He had arranged for trumpets to be sounded and familiar English songs to be played as his ships neared the island, hoping to signal his arrival and elicit a joyful response from the settlers. But only silence greeted him. As White and his men landed and made their way to the site of the settlement, a chilling sight met their eyes. The village was deserted. The houses had been dismantled, not burned or destroyed in a violent attack, but carefully taken down. This suggested an organized departure, not a panicked flight. The defensive palisade, a wooden wall built around the settlement, was still standing. There were no human remains, no signs of a battle or a massacre. It was as if the colonists had simply packed up and walked away. But where could they have gone? And why had they left no clear message? The searchers fanned out, looking for any clue, any indication of what had happened. Section 6, the CROATOAN enigma whispers of a new beginning. The most prominent theory, and the one John White himself seemed to favor, is that the colonists relocated to CROATOAN Island. This island, now known as Hatteras Island, was home to a Native American tribe that had generally maintained friendly relations with the English. The carving CROATOAN on the palisade post seemed like a direct message, a pointer to their new location. The absence of a Maltese cross, the pre-arranged distress signal, suggested that their move was not made under duress. Perhaps they saw assimilation with a friendly local tribe as their best chance for survival, especially with supplies dwindling and no sign of White's return. Living among the CROATOAN people would have offered several advantages. The CROATOAN knew the land. They knew how to farm native crops successfully. They knew how to hunt and fish effectively in the local environment. They understood the changing seasons and the challenges of survival in coastal Carolina. For a group of English settlers struggling with unfamiliar conditions and dwindling resources, merging with an established, knowledgeable community could have seemed like a logical and life-saving step. It might have been a pragmatic decision born out of necessity, a choice to adapt rather than perish in isolation. Section 7, lost to the wild theories of conflict and calamity. While the CROATOAN theory offers a glimmer of hope for the colonists' survival, other darker possibilities cannot be dismissed. One such theory is that the colony was attacked and wiped out either by hostile Native American tribes or perhaps even by the Spanish, who had a presence to the south in Florida and viewed English colonization as a threat to their claims in the New World. Relations between the English settlers and some of the mainland tribes, such as the CROATOAN, had been strained, even violent at times, prior to John White's departure. An attack could have come swiftly and devastatingly. If an attack occurred, why were there no obvious signs of a struggle? No bodies found by White in 1590. It's possible that any evidence of violence was cleaned up by the attackers or obscured by the passage of time and the elements. The colonists might have been killed or taken captive. Captives could have been dispersed among various tribes, making them difficult to trace. The Spanish, if involved, would have had an interest in eliminating any English presence and might have been thorough in removing evidence. However, there are no definitive Spanish records of such an attack on Roanoke at that specific time, though they were certainly aware of the English attempts to colonize the region. Section 8, digging for answers, modern science meets an old riddle. For centuries, the mystery of the lost colony remained largely in the realm of speculation and historical debate. However, in recent decades, modern archaeology and scientific analysis have brought new tools and techniques to bear on this old riddle. Archaeologists have conducted numerous excavations on Roanoke Island itself, as well as on Hatteras Island, CROATOAN, and even on the mainland, searching for tangible clues that might shed light on the colonists' fate. These investigations are painstaking, like searching for a few specific grains of sand on an entire beach. One significant area of focus has been Site X, located further inland from Roanoke Island, near what was once a Native American village called Metaquip. Analysis of John White's Virginia Pars map using techniques like infrared and X-ray spectroscopy revealed a hidden symbol under a patch, possibly indicating a fort or settlement at this inland location. Archaeological digs at Site X have unearthed late 16th century English pottery sherds, including types known to have been used by the Roanoke colonists. This suggests that at least some of the colonists might have moved to this mainland site, perhaps seeking better land or a more secure location. On Hatteras Island, archaeologists from the CROATOAN Archaeological Society and other institutions have found a concentration of English artifacts from the correct time period, mixed with CROATOAN material culture. Section 9. Roanoke's enduring shadow, a mystery for the ages. More than 4 centuries have passed since the Roanoke colonists vanished from the face of the earth, yet their story continues to captivate our imaginations. It's a tale that speaks to fundamental human themes: the courage to explore the unknown, the struggle for survival in a harsh new world, and the profound mystery of the unexplained. The Lost Colony is more than just a historical puzzle. It has become a part of American folklore, a foundational enigma woven into the very fabric of the nation's origins. What happened to those men, women, and children? The question hangs in the air as persistent as the coastal winds that sweep over Roanoke Island. The lack of a definitive answer is precisely what keeps the mystery alive. Each new archaeological find, each re-examination of historical documents offers a tantalizing glimpse, a potential clue, but the full picture remains elusive. Was it assimilation with the Croatoan people? A desperate but successful bid for survival? Was it a violent end at the hands of hostile forces? Or did disease and starvation claim them one by one? Perhaps the truth is a complex combination of these factors, a story of a colony fragmenting with different groups meeting different fates. The universe rarely offers simple answers to complex events. The legacy of Roanoke serves as a humble reminder of the limits of our knowledge.